There has always been this Carnegie classification of institutions, and they reclassified 3 or 4 years ago, or longer, because I'm now in a time warp, 10 years. But, not fairly recently. And it used to be community junior colleges, and then there was a continuum, and with research universities, and you'll still hear things referred to as, research one. That's the old Carnegie classification. So now they're doctoral intensive, doctoral extensive. But essentially in the new classification, there's 4 types of post-secondary institutions. One is associate colleges, which have the transfer programs, the 2-year baccalaureate programs and the vocational programs. And then baccalaureate colleges, which is 4-year institutions like Truman State, which several years ago made a big commitment to staying a 4-year college, which is unusual. And then master's colleges and universities, which would be like Westminster, because now they have the master's in business programs, and I think the master's in teaching. And then the doctoral granting institutions, which are the whole range of institutions like the University of Missouri. So within that, there's subcategories. So University of Missouri would be at the highest, or the upper category in terms of research intensive. And someplace like Missouri State would be more in the lower categories. And I don't mean any judgment by higher or lower. It's easier to explain it that way. So within those, then, faculty have different kinds of responsibilities, and it will all be hinged around teaching, research, and service, except with the associate colleges, where there's really virtually no emphasis on research for faculty. And in fact, traditionally, they've kind of stayed away from PhDs a lot of times because they don't want that research orientation coming in and supplanting their teaching orientation. But at a community college or an associate degree institution, the general teaching responsibilities are going to be between like 12 to 15 hours, semester hours per semester. So like 4 to 5 courses per semester. And then there's an expectation that faculty will be involved in service, but the service is seen as like service to the community, being on community boards, community committees, that kind of thing, and then service to the college itself, because there's still some of the governance things that happen. At baccalaureate colleges, they're teaching, there's really a big range with baccalaureate colleges, because there's the kind of highly elite ones, where like a Grinnell in Iowa, Truman State really is an elite one. It's public, so that's another public and private is another kind of separation. Antioch, but anyways, the 4-year, the more kind of elite they are, the less those teaching hours are going to be, and the more emphasis there'll be on some research. So teaching is usually somewhere between 9 and 12 hours. Services to the college, like with community colleges, not so much to the community, really there's very little emphasis. And then on the disciplinary area, so for like us, in CISL, it would be, the disciplinary area would be like education. So it's more broadly defined to the field, more of a generalist. And then when there are faculty in 4-year institutions that, do research, but it's really more for that kind of local and regional dissemination, conferences, maybe more like thought pieces, essays. And again, I'm speaking in really broad generalities just to give you kind of a, there are colleges that are unique in some of these characteristics, but overall, this is the kind of thing you can expect. And expecting that, when you go for interviews, you know what to ask, rather than making assumptions. Masters universities, teaching is like 9 to 12 hours, somewhere in there. Again, depending on how elite, it is, the hours will tend to be lower to compensate for a higher expectation for research. Research is that kind of regional dissemination, national, now they're more going to national conferences, and then the research tends to, or the service is focused on the discipline area more than the field area. So for us, it would be more of a focus on ed tech than it would be on education in general. And then you should be pretty familiar with doctoral universities. You can see I've read and bolded them because with the associate's, baccalaureate, and the master's granting, the greater emphasis is going to be on teaching overall. With the doctoral institution, the greater emphasis is going to be on research and teaching graduate students. Less emphasis on undergraduate teaching. And I'm talking about kind of in the reward system, which is really where the rubber hits the road, we could say here that and we do, my experience has been the University of Missouri really does highly value teaching, and so it's, it's kind of straddling these dual responsibilities of really highly valuing research and wanting to behave like an institution where there's a huge amount of emphasis on research and grant getting, versus making sure that teaching it gets, the recognition and reward that it should. So, they're trying to kind of straddle that, that teaching research, that teaching research, no, but it's true here, kind of mission. So the typical teaching responsibilities are 6 to 9 hours, somewhere in there. It's yield, sometimes even and then there's release for research. So you probably experienced this where a faculty member maybe isn't teaching in a semester. It's because they've gotten a grant, they've been bought out, that's what they call it, from teaching. So that the time they would have spent teaching, they're spending on their research project. And the service is very much to the discipline. It's really focused on the discipline, and then the university, college, department, there's always going to be that college or university service component. Ernest Boyer wrote a book in the 1980s called Academic Cultures. That's really an interesting book to read. I mean, it's fun to read. It's not tedious. And, it's interviews, and then he kind of summarizes them. So it's an interesting read. And I think that's probably one of the best explanations for kind of the values and the orientation of the different types of institutions. And something they call institutional drift, which is the tendency for associate colleges to want to become baccalaureate colleges. And baccalaureate colleges want to become doctoral institutions. And so you see institutional drift with Missouri State. Who wants to be like the University of Missouri, get to that doctoral status. You see a disavowal of institutional drift in Truman State, which makes it really interesting and unique. That as first public institution, that they've stayed kind of with their mission and said we're going to be a really, really good 4-year college, and haven't added, say, master's programs in education or master's programs to try and become more like master's institutions. So that's kind of the framework, that you operate from when you look at, post-secondary institutions as a whole, and then that's the framework that influences what happens when you're working there, which that's where I think you probably have questions. And I'm just we can be informal.
I guess I don't really see a clear picture about the 6 to 9 hours of teaching per semester.
Okay. Meaning
how many classes?
Oh, I'm sorry. 2 to 3, because each class is about 3 hours.
Okay, so it's like you're teaching 9 hours per semester, 9-hour class per semester.
No, you'd be teaching 3 3-hour classes, and that would be considered a teaching responsibilities of 9 hours. I try not to say load, because teaching load has a real negative connotation, but that's typically what, how it's expressed. So yeah, when I say 6 to 9 hours, that's 2 to 3 courses, and 12 to 15 is 4 to 5 courses. Because it's typically in 3 semester-hour increments.
I think there are differences too if you're on a tenure track versus a non-tenure track position. What Dr. Cockrell explained with the emphasis on research. I'm in a non-tenure track position here on this campus, and the emphasis is definitely much more on teaching, but there's still an expectation that I participate in research and service as well. But I am evaluated more on the teaching than I am on the research.
And see, we're evaluated more on our research than on our teaching. Yeah, there isn't that you reminded me about the different kinds of positions. It's, there's really a change that's happening now in terms of positions. It has traditionally been the case where a good many of the community college faculty were part-time or adjunct, not on kind of continuing contracts, about 60%. And universities had very few people in non-tenure track positions, as adjuncts, or this whole non-tenure track designation is relatively new. And had a very small percentage of their faculty that were adjunct or, might teach a course here and there, but not these steady ongoing positions. But there's a whole series of non-tenure track positions, which means that you're kind of basically on a year-to-year appointment or a course-by-course appointment. Like we have people in CISL that will teach courses for us on a fairly, pretty regular basis. We like consistency, but they're hired to teach that one course or 2 courses, and they're paid for that. Then we have people on non-tenure track positions, so they're not on this continuing tenure contract. They're on a year-to-year contract. I'm tenured, so, unless I do something horrible and they, start documenting to fire me, I just know next year my job will be the same as it is this year, or it'll be there in the same way.
Does tenure track has an end?
Tenure has an end in that you get tenure.
So it's not tenure for 5 years.
No, it's tenure indefinitely. Now, they are moving more and more to like 5-year contracts. A lot of schools are doing that. And part of the reason that they're doing it is because they want to be responsive to kind of the demands, the educational demands. Universities used to be, research universities, pretty invulnerable to that, but they're becoming more and more vulnerable. So you're seeing a lot more non-tenure track positions, which allows them to be responsible. If there's not high enrollments or large amounts of grants coming in a particular area, they can actually eliminate that area pretty quickly, because people are on a year-to-year appointment. So there's adjunct appointments, which is really kind of the part-time appointments or some sort of affiliation. So used to be an ELPA that a person from the Systems Research Office was adjunct with ELPA, and he didn't teach or anything, but he came to meetings, and it was kind of a liaison with the institutional research that ELPA had. I don't think I am this year, but up until this year, I was adjunct in family and community medicine. Now, believe me, I could never teach in that, but because I was working on a grant in medicine, then I was adjuncted to that department, and it was just kind of a way of establishing a connection. So I had no responsibilities, no role in that department, nothing. It was the grant. Postdoc appointments, which are becoming more common across areas. It used to just pretty much be in the sciences. Postdoc appointments are, you've got your PhD, And what you want to do is be able to focus, I would say, work with a particular faculty member in a particular area of expertise and focus on a particular area of research. So you might get a 1 or 2 or 3 year postdoc somewhere. And they range from the 1 year postdocs to 3 year. And the 3 year ones is like, if you do good the first year, yes, they'll have you back the second year, and then yes, they'll have you back the third. So like, we'll get job applicants who are like doing a postdoc now, maybe at Stanford, you know, so they've got their PhD, and it's supposed to really help them hone in on their research skills. Typically, there's not a lot of teaching expectations associated with postdoc diplomas. It's really oriented towards research and grants and that kind of thing. And then there's what you're in is ranked non-tenure track positions. So you start out as maybe an instructor. I didn't put that in, should have. But typically as an assistant professor, usually as an instructor if you don't have a PhD in a research university, which are the ones that use these non-tenure track ranked positions most often. Would start out as an assistant professor, demonstrate the accomplishment of certain things within a pretty flexible time frame, you know, and usually, you know, it's outlined that you need to do this and this and this, and, you know, you kind of get that body of whatever the expectations were, and then you go up for associate. And then you get that body of whatever, and you go up